The Harchan watched as Azek's frill puffed up in indignation.
Our pacts are always mutually beneficial. The benefits our technology brings
is vastly inferior to the value you extract in raw materials. I was hypodoctrinated in your ways, Zilpic. Either way, I'm presuming you are curious as to what happened here. Fortunately, I've had nothing but time as I watched my fellow commanders throw good food at a queen who won't birth.
Garrosh indicated 2 seats, one clearly for a comms officer of some sort, given the array of readouts and communication panels on it, the other some sort of master flight chair. Azek lowered himself into one, and Jek followed suit. Despite himself, Azek's tail curled up in front of him, the twin ends reaching towards the bug in curiosity.
So, you arrived here, set up orbit, and made your announcement?
Yes, standard line, informing them of their impending annexation, the benefits of being annexed, the end of corruption, etc. We got more than a few hailing attempts from telecommunications stations all across the globe, which I suppose should have been a warning.
A warning?
The humans aren't a single polity. They are many, and as a result, they've been in a state of warfare, or preparing for war since one of them industrialized.
Azek choked slightly, thankful his headset masked such outburst.
One of them industrialized first, and didn't conquer the world? How?
You'd like them. They were a trading empire. Small population, lots of small outposts in other polities' territory. They began industrializing and used to bankroll other states to fight each other. Of course, others soon industrialized as well.
That's not unheard of, Harchen. Multiple industrialized powers, but when one reached the space age, didn't that one gain dominance with orbital power?
Of course, except 2 reached that point at the same time, along with their allies, and then both abandoned intensive research into it in exchange for building up weapons for a war that never came.
Azek's tongue flicked up to his eyes several times. He was starting to see what might have happened. Multiple industrialized states, all woven together in a web of alliances and rivalries, and then a single big unifying enemy had appeared.
We ignored all hails, and then they tried to attack us. Hydrocarbon-fueled attack craft, very fast for being engine-based, so a show of force was needed. The annexation commander's mothership shot the first wave down in a single blast.
Of course. You probably didn't even need to scramble your defense craft.
Garrosh raised his side limbs in agreement, or so Azek's headset told him.
So we thought. Then the missiles came. Nuclear.
Azek felt Jek's tail tighten around his, like a newborn seeking its broodmates. How embarrassing. Nuclear missiles were often the first space weapon developed, and soon replaced as a main weapon due to their nature of overkill. Most flagships kept 5 or so for killing crippled enemies too dangerous to board, but that sort of warfare was always presumed, and hadn't been seen in the galaxy since the founding of the Quorum. Still, he felt he was missing something.
Missiles? I thought Harchan motherships had some of the best point defense in the galaxy.
We do.
Garrosh's antennae twitched in pride before drooping.
However, when 100 of them are fired at 2 motherships at once, it's inevitable your shields take the brunt of it.
Azek winced as Jek's tail became painfully tight. He was behaving like a hatchling. Though, to be fair, an armada's worth of nuclear missiles did somewhat justify the reaction.
Even so, a mothership should survive that.
Both motherships did. Not the next 100. The point defense sensors couldn't detect them through the radiation cloud. Turns out the reason they abandoned space research, as far as we can tell, is because they stockpiled thousands of the damn things. It was enough to send the ships crashing into the ground.
Suddenly, the state of the annexation made perfect sense to Azek.
And that's why you radiation scrubbed the planet?
The Harchan jerked backwards.
What? No. Though we did cause the radiation. Indirectly. The remaining motherships identified the places the missiles were coming from, and what to look for to find more. A little fine-tuning of the sensors, a little precision aiming, and a sharp bombardment from a thermal beam, and a chain reaction started. Of course, by then both of the crash sites were swarming with their militaries.
Azek winced. To hear a normally arrogant and proud race like the Harchan discuss the loss of two of their motherships to a species who hadn't even colonized their own moon in such brutal terms was painful.
Of course, on the ground they were no match for us in a straight fight, and especially when a mothership moved overhead. We probably wiped out 60% of their ground forces that were there, taking minimal casualties. Then their damn submarines fired.
Submarines?
You remember. These are people who've been preparing for a nuclear war on a planetary level. They put plans in place if entire states are wiped out. These craft are underwater. They are nearly undetectable unless you are actually in sight of them, and they carry a complement of nuclear missiles. Their job? To avenge their state.
Azek's eyes were dry again, and he didn't even try to stop his tongue from repeatedly flicking over them.
So, just as we are preparing to mop up the last of them, a third mothership gets struck by enough missiles to cripple it and force it to try to flee. At which point they fire another salvo. The only option left is to occupy, land all forces. We control most cities in a rill. 2 rills for all governments to have officially surrendered. Turns out nuclear missiles aren't really applicable in city fighting. Then we learn about 4th generational warfare.
4th generational warfare?
Human term. Essentially what happens when an entire species decides it's going to be a soldier, but pretends it's not. The remaining military went underground, and our squads couldn't go one patrol without an explosive going off, or a sniper taking a pot shot. Plays hell on your mental state.
Azek tried to imagine what the Harchan was describing. Zilpik were not naturally gifted for warfare, being highly individualistic and competitive with each other, but he could imagine the constant feeling of being under threat would make any sentient slowly insane.
But you have 2 motherships left. What happened to the other one?
Grash's eyes wandered, as the bug seemed lost in thought.
It turns out, taking prisoners in large amounts isn't always the best idea.
On a cold mountainside, a blinking light on a smooth metallic pod, quite unlike Harchan construction. 3 heavily clad, somewhat short figures, clutching machine guns from a war long past approach.
एउटा अन्तरिक्षयान जल्दी गरो पागल अधिकारीले आओ उसले के गर्ने भनेर जान्नेछ.
Translated. A spaceship! Hurry up, get the crazy officer. He'll know what to do. One of the figures hurries down the mountainside, towards the soft lights of his village.